Hello and welcome back. As you can see, I'm here again. Outside, beautiful day. I'm gonna get right into it with this one, and I want to try to use as much plain English as possible because this video is going to be about something that I would call the true pandemic of our time, and that is anxiety and depression. This video is going to be about how to once and for all truly rid yourself of this disease. The trick in letting go, the trick in truly conquering anxiety and depression is creating a bit of distance. A bit of distance from yourself and the situation you find yourself in, using your perspective, using what you see, how you see things around you. When you are trapped in anxious thought and depressive thoughts, really what's going on is you're focusing too much of your energy, an enormous amount of your consciousness on the story that your mind is producing around the situation you want to avoid, are in, or are replaying something that happened that you're thinking about over and over. And how do you create some distance from the story in the mind? And that is the difficult part. That's where it takes practice. And that's where most people revert to medication, because it's a lot easier to pop a pill to forget about your problems and continue living your life the way you had all this time. It's much easier not to change yourself and instead take a pill to simply change some of the chemistry. But the problem with taking a pill is that it doesn't rewire the brain, and it doesn't give you the tools to manage the situation when it comes. It gives you a type of chemistry that makes you feel meh, whatever about everything. And that is not a healthy state of mind, because we're here on this planet and we haven't been shown the right, proper way to use the body. Whenever you find yourself in a situation where your mind replays a story and then you feel anxious, what happens is there's emotions that are I can hear my cat crying, or not crying, but meowing. She wants to come over, I think. What you hear or experience, is an emotion that's tied to a thought. And the thought will energize the emotion, and the emotion will energize the thought. So the minute you feel a situation that you're in, especially when it comes to anger, sadness, depressive type of thoughts and so on, these are very difficult to get out of. It seems overwhelming. There we go. They're very, very overpowering. They take on such a aggressive energy on you that it's very difficult to stop looking at it. You see, it's the emotion that you feel. It's the emotions that you feel about the story in your mind that creates such a difficult time for you to separate yourself from the story. When you take medication, it will suppress some of that overload of emotion in you, so it feels easier to not worry about it. But there's a way to do it without medication, and it's permanent. And it's something that the more you do, the easier it gets. Okay? It's all about your perspective. And let me explain what I mean about perspective. If the situation comes in all of a sudden and you find yourself not being able to stop thinking about the situation you're in, then your perspective on everything around you is narrowed down to that story. Now, in your experience around you, there's also there's a fly on my leg. There's also your physical sensations that you can feel. There's sounds that you're going to hear. There's things you're going to see. There's smells. There's all different types of sensory inputs going on around you. And this is the difficult part, if you can practice and this only works if you practice it while you're really into it. You have to start applying this immediately when you notice you're lost and you're angry and the story keeps replaying. You start by bringing your awareness, your consciousness to your sensory organs, your sensory perceptions. So you broaden your perception of the world around you. So you might start by, for example, if it's a sunny day, you might start by noticing, okay, yes, my mind is playing a story, but I feel the sun on my skin. Does the sun feel nice? If you like the sun, if you enjoy being out in the sun, then this can be one step out of your story. So you notice the sensation of the sun around you. You're still going to be overwhelmed by the emotion, because anger and sadness and those types of things have a very powerful momentum. So then you might also include your hearing. If it's quiet, you might hear sounds of birds, or you might hear the wind. So the trick is to broaden your perception using your senses, your physical senses, so that you're not so narrowed in your perception. You're not only focusing on what's going on in your mind. Okay, so that's the first step. Step out of the mind, take a few steps using your perceptions, and broaden your perspective on your surroundings, your immediate surroundings. Then you start asking yourself questions about, can I enjoy the sun right now? You start giving yourself little permission slips to say, okay, I feel what I feel, and I'm going to let it be there right now, but at the same time, can I also enjoy the sounds that I'm hearing? Can I also enjoy the perceptions of wind blowing on me? Okay, the song that I'm listening to, can I also enjoy this song? And you're not trying to run away from the situation you're feeling. You're not trying to separate yourself from what you're feeling. You're just trying to create a little distance so that you can look at the situation you're in with a more calm and centered state of mind, because you don't want to run from the problem. You want to look at the problem and diffuse it, deflate it, because you might notice that you were simply overreacting. And if you try to escape the situation, you might not come to the conclusion that you were overreacting. The problem is, you might start justifying your behavior. You might start blaming the situation you're in. You might start saying your life isn't fair, and then just being like, oh, whatever, and dropping it, and then turning your attention into your perceptions. Now, this is not going to work, because what's going to happen is you may be able to separate yourself from the situation, but then when the situation comes back, it's going to still have that same fiery intensity, and each time you're going to lose yourself in it, and you're going to feel like, this is stupid, it doesn't work. So you have to first take a few steps out of your situation by going into the body, going into the sense perceptions, and getting a bit of distance, and then start bringing some logic and some common sense in the situation and how you're reacting to the situation. Find where you're overreacting and learn to look at yourself and be honest with yourself. This is probably even more difficult than creating a bit of distance, because this means you have to turn your attention to yourself and break the chain of blaming others or your situation. You got to break the chain of running, okay, escaping the situation. So first step, create a bit of distance, separate yourself from what you're feeling currently. See if you can enjoy the sensory and sensations around you. Create a bit of distance. And then see if you can look at yourself, find where you're overreacting, and be honest with yourself. Where am I? You're trying to find a place that is true, something that you're doing. Where am I wrong? You're not blaming yourself. You don't want to put blame on yourself. But if you notice that you're adding to the situation by expressing too much anger and you're really going over the top with it, by looking at that behavior and finding where it's destructive. Yes, I feel what I feel. This person may be saying what they're saying, or the situation I'm in might be happening to me. But in my reaction to what's going on, am I doing more damage? Am I also making it worse? And if you are honest to yourself, you may start to take the next step out. These things are really not easy to do, and it takes practice. And sometimes you may need to just yell and scream. Sometimes you may need to physically leave the situation you're in. And very importantly, if you find yourself yelling or screaming to get out that anger or that sadness, at least do your best not to direct what you're expressing towards the situation or the person. So next step I'm going to give you is very, very powerful for deflating the situation and making sure the situation doesn't inflate further each time. It'll help bring it down so eventually you can get a grasp of this. If you're feeling anger, then you might literally just scream, anger! It might sound funny. You might punch a pillow and just acknowledge you're feeling what you feel. Acknowledge the emotion as it is. Don't go any further. This is so important. Don't take a step further and say, I'm angry at, or I'm angry because. Drop all the because, all the reasons, okay? Simply, what you're feeling is something you don't want to feel, and you know that. I'm getting a lot of mosquito or flies all over me. You're feeling what you feel, and you know you don't like it, and you're simply being honest, and you're expressing it. It's anger. There's anger in my body. And the fourth step is not to personalize it. You don't want to say, I am angry. Okay, these are very difficult to do, but you can get this. You say there's anger in me. You acknowledge that it's not you that's anger, but there's anger in your body, in this body. Not even your body, the body that you're currently residing in while you're here on the earth. Okay, in this experience right now, in this body, there's anger. So in the same way that you would dump out water that's too hot, you just want to empty that anger. You don't want to throw the hot water on someone or the situation, because it'll bounce back to you. It'll come back. It'll just perpetuate the whole thing. So you want to find a safe place place, a responsible, safe place to dump it. Okay? And then afterwards, the fifth step, see if you can find some gratitude and something you can learn from the experience. Try to find some meaning to it. Try to find some gratitude for the experience itself. Again, these are so difficult to do, but you can do it. You can really do this. I have, and it's changed my life completely. Because in the situation that you were given, that was laid before you, you had the opportunity to make yourself into a person that can handle these emotions on your own without needing medication, without beating yourself up again. You're changing, you're becoming more grounded, you're learning to use the human body that we were not trained from childhood how to use. So be grateful for the situation itself. The situation you just found yourself in gave you the opportunity to know thyself and to apply some practices to master your being. Okay? We spend a lot of time learning how to use a car and how cars work, or it might be a new video game that you just bought. You learn the controls in the game and you master that game, but we don't spend enough time mastering the self. And that's what this last step really is about. It's about solidifying the whole experience you just had and really finding a place where you can, and this might only come hours or days after the initial outburst of experience, where you can start to feel some gratitude, some genuine heartfelt gratitude, and notice that, wow, if it wasn't for that tough experience, that tough challenge that I wouldn't be in or have experienced, I wouldn't have the opportunity in the moment to better myself. I wouldn't have the opportunity in the moment to practice knowing the body, to master the self. Okay? So remember, the classroom is here and now in the life, in the classroom of change. I tried to say something cool, but it didn't come out that way. Just remember, you're always here and now. And the only place that you can apply these types of things is in the moment, not after. Okay? So when you find yourself, let me just recap. When you find yourself in a situation that brings a lot of anxiety, depressive, sadness, anger, first separate yourself from the situation by broadening your mind or your awareness, your perceptions from only the situation your story is playing to the sensations in your body and out and around you. Okay? Once you've got a bit of distance, make sure to find where you're adding to the situation. Okay? I forget the third and fourth step. That's fine. So distance. The most important, find some distance. Find out where you're adding so you can break the chain, and really find some gratitude. Find where you can be grateful for the experience. You might have to look back at the video to see the rest of the parts. But the 3 steps I just said are really, really crucial. Those are the things that definitely will make sure that you don't keep repeating. Creating distance is the first step. Take a few steps out of the story of the mind. Again, find where you're adding unnecessarily and where you're overreacting. Be honest with yourself, okay? Be honest with yourself. And find some gratitude for the experience after the fact. Wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this video, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. Peace.